Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this event, aptly titled, It's Time to Enjoy the Power of the Cloud. For those of you whom I've not had the privilege to meet before, my name is Nick Buerta. I'm the Managing Director here at Foresight Dynamics Africa, and I also head up the Channel Partner Cluster at Foresight Holdings. Co-presenting with me today is, and also very importantly, the co-author of this very substantial survey that we've done, is our Group Marketing Manager, John Euler. John, if we can do a sound check at this point, if you can please unmute yourself and just say good morning.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Fantastic. Thank you, John. Partners, it really is a privilege to welcome all of you to this online event. We've had just short of 150 RSVPs for this event, and the geography representing in this audience is really vast. And I don't normally do this, but we've taken a quick snapshot in regards to the countries presented, not only in the survey that was being conducted, but also for partners that are actually active on this call. And I want to say a shout out and a hello to everybody from Algeria, Angola, Botswana, Egypt, Ghana, Jordan, Kenya, Kosovo, Lesotho, Libya, Malawi, Mauritius, Morocco, Mozambique, Namibia, Nigeria, Pakistan, Sierra Leone, South Africa, where we are currently shooting from, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, and then last but not least, Zimbabwe. I want to welcome all of you. And again, thank you for joining us for this opportunity to unveil the results of our speed test. John, if we can get into the agenda for the morning. I'm going to kick off and explain the idea behind the speed test. Why is it that we decided to conduct this speed test report? I will then hand over to John to talk about the why. Why is it a good time to enjoy the power of the cloud? I'll then join the virtual stage again, and we'll talk about the actual speed test survey results. And then we're going to end off on what I'd like to call the quick win for solutions in the cloud. Not just for the Microsoft partners on the call, what is it that you can do to bring that extra edge into your business, but very importantly, where can you help your customers with quick win solutions into the cloud? We'll then go into the questions and answers section, and I want to at this point to remind everybody to please make use of the Q&A feature. Just in terms of the administration and logistics, we are not going to address the questions during the conversation. Towards the end of time, we've allowed ample time for Q&A where these questions will be discussed. And then very last, we will provide the link to the actual survey results. And with that, John, if we can get on to the next slide and let's kick off. So the speed test report, I think, has been a while in the making. And John and I have had various discussions into this concept of internet connectivity on the African continent. We've both been privileged to be able to travel extensively in the African continent. And as a CSP indirect provider, we have constant, if I say constant, daily communications with customers directly and with you, the Microsoft partner audience. And very often we hear this little nuance or this thought creeping into the partner community going, we're based in Africa, and what is true for the rest of the world in terms of connectivity is not true for us in Africa. And I'm certainly not suggesting by the results of this survey that I'm not recognizing the unique challenges that we have on the African continent. By no means. But I hope that the test that we've conducted with the partners that participated, and now with the results that we're going to show you, that we can actually say some of the challenges that we have in Africa are not just African or geography-wise African challenges. There are worldwide challenges, and people in the United States of America and in Europe or wherever you speak to have similar type of constraints. So that was the first point, really getting an understanding of what is the truth. And the truth being, this is the results of real partners that we operate with on a daily basis. Show us what it looks like in your local country. Obviously, we ran the two different tests, and we'll get to that scenario now, where we firstly checked the base internet connectivity. How quickly do you get into the internet? And then very importantly, when we talk cloud-based computing, what is the latency into the different cloud regions into the world? And why that is obviously important is when you as a partner community go out and you deliver cloud services, which of the cloud regions should you access in order to get the best result for your customers? And then very importantly, hopefully with these two items in place, we can showcase that there is ample opportunities for partners in this geography that we find ourselves in to take cloud applications to our customer base. So from a test-based result, we've done the basic speed test by Ookla, and we've done the Azure speed test 2.0. So the Ookla speed test, I don't think needs any introduction. The Azure speed test basically did a test on the latency between the browser of the person conducting the speed test and all of the data regions across the globe, and very specifically the blob storage resource group within those data regions. And we are completely aware that we are only looking at two elements of what it is to mean, do we have good internet or do we have fast internet? Even small elements like the browser that you have access that you did, or the browser that you use in order to test the latency for the Azure speed test can have an effect. So we're surely not saying that this is a complete result and therefore you are good to go. But I think the results in general does tell a story, and that's what we try to achieve. Next slide, please, John. So I want to kick off, and on screen is, and the next 3 slides is going to delve into results from a very, very recent document that was published. There is an investment firm in the USA called ARK Invest, and ARK Invest really came to, can I say, power in the investment world during 2020. From the time when we had the market crash due to COVID kicking off, up to the rest of the year, ARK Invest's exchange traded funds outperformed virtually any other fund in the rest of the world. And I think it's a new era of investing that ARK had now heralded into this investment world, because what ARK had done is they look at trends that really impact humanity, trends that will impact humanity now and within the next 5 years. And from a financial perspective, they go to those markets, they look at the companies that deliver solutions in those markets, and they therefore say, well, these are the things that's going to drive the future of humanity. Therefore, we have faith in the industry, and thus they select the best of breed companies that deliver those specific solutions. Now, I'm not going to touch in this conversation on hypersonic point-to-point travel and us being multi-planetary species, as interesting as it might be. That's not the purpose of this discussion. However, if I look at the very, very first item, John, just one slide back for me, please. If you look at the stat that's given on screen there, roughly 50% of the global population lacks internet connectivity. They did not state that 50% of the African continent lacks internet connectivity. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a global challenge. How do they see the future of internet will look? So, and not going into this concept of orbital aerospace, but John, if you go to the next slide for us, please. What they are saying is, if we look at the costs of sending rockets into space, we all know with people like Elon Musk pushing the envelope of what can be done, we will see a large increase in the amount of what they now refer to as low Earth orbit satellites going into space. The difference between the new realm, low Earth orbit, and geostationary orbit, as you can see from this basic explanation in the ARK report, is obviously larger coverage versus smaller coverage area, but very importantly, look at the difference in latency. And this really is what ARK is saying, is where they believe the future of internet connectivity will come from, in order to not only provide global connectivity, but especially Africa-wide connectivity. In the survey results, John will have some extensive talks in regards to the role that we currently see with the mobile network operators, and that obviously is the main source of the providers that we currently have to rely on. But it's interesting to see ARK Invest's future view of where we are going in terms of internet connectivity. The next slide, I'm not going to go detail because obviously here they've got their financial view in regards to what is the market opportunity. But I want to focus on those two middle numbers. And again, in regards to this conversation we're having going, oh, Africa is bad at internet. Africa does not have stable internet. I'm based in Africa. Cloud computing is not a reality for me. Look at that statistic. 42 million Americans do not have access to broadband connectivity. 3 billion people globally do not have access to broadband connectivity. Partners on the call, please, when you speak to customers, be proud of where we are. We have unique challenges, but please know they are not unique. Next slide, please, John. As a result, and I hope I've framed this conversation, the goal really was to understand the actual speeds and not just, hey, it's a report somewhere far off done by an American organization. We've taken local partners in country. Let's see what those results are. And as a result of the survey, what it is that we can take to the market. And that one is obvious. I really hope that the results of the survey will assist you as the Microsoft partner community to take this message to market and really make a difference in the lives of your customers. John, I want to hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Nick. I just wanted to, can you hear me? Just a quick sound check.
Perfect, clear.
Thank you very much. And good morning, good afternoon to all our partners and customers that are joining us on this call today. And really, as Nick has pointed out, really it is time for us to really start enjoying the power of the cloud. And for me, myself and Nick have been very fortunate that we've traveled across this beautiful continent of ours. 1.4 billion people, represents approximately 20% of the world's population. But this infographic for me is always something that brings me back to home about the true size of Africa and the size, scale, and potential that this continent has in terms of new solutions coming out into the market. As we pointed out, we've been very fortunate to travel around. I've been fortunate to have traveled to 23 countries across the continent. For our colleagues in East Africa, that was me on the back of a Bora Bora in Kampala, and Nick trying to navigate traffic on Mombasa Drive in Nairobi.
Really realizing, John, for the first time that the cows have right of way when it comes to Mombasa Road in Kenya.
Absolutely. But the time has never been more amped now for organizations, partners, customers across the continent to really take advantage of the power, flexibility, and scalability that the cloud does offer us. Nick pointed out, we've looked a lot at connectivity, and Africa has always been a mobile-first connectivity region. So mobile broadband has always been very, very, very prolific. Obviously, fixed broadband fiber is starting to make its mark in the big economic centers across the continent. But when we looked at the data, it was very interesting. You look at sub-Saharan Africa with its 1.1 billion people. In 2019, there were approximately 477 million unique mobile subscribers, about just over 800 million active connections. That's going to jump by almost 40% in 2025 to 614 million connections and over 1 billion SIM cards connected, okay, in the next 4 years. That is a massive growth. And because of that growth, we are starting to see the big investment from mobile companies into their 4G and LTE networks as they begin to grow and expand the penetration of mobile internet users across the continent. That is driving smartphone connectivity, tablet connectivity, and desktop connectivity at the same time. You know, if you look at sub-Saharan Africa again, only 9% of total connections were 4G enabled in 2019, according to the GSMA. That's going to jump to 27% in 2025. That means in 4 years' time, 1 in 4 connections will be 4G enabled. That creates a massive opportunity for widespread mobile broadband connectivity across the continent. Importantly, however, That connectivity is about connecting not only internally, but connecting to the world. And really, the growth potential for Africa is being led by many multinational companies that are investing in Africa's connected ecosystem. We can see from the diagram on the screen the massive undersea cable network that has been developed over the last 20 years across the continent. Africa to Africa, which is the latest big cable that's been installed, is a Facebook-sponsored initiative amongst other partners. This investment is helping Africa connect to the world and the world connect to Africa. But in relation to that and supporting that is investments from other companies like Microsoft, for example, into enterprise-grade data center regions. We've seen these two investments already over the last 2 years with South Africa North and South Africa West in South Africa. And we are certainly looking forward to further data regions coming to the continent. These data regions or hyperscale data centers, like what we have with Azure, are providing customers and partners with massive opportunities to run thousands of services and millions of virtual machines all sitting in the cloud. And this is creating massive amounts of opportunities for partners and customers in the market. For example, reducing downtime losses, easier transitions to the cloud. We know with the work that we do, we are taking our customers on digital transformation journeys, migrating them into the cloud. Hyperscale data centers are giving us that opportunity. Scalability based on demand, being able to lift up and lift down, is an important part for small businesses to manage cost. Cloud is giving them that scalability. High volume traffic management, when the peak is there, hyperscale data centers give the opportunity for partners to be able to manage big traffic loads. The ability to be able to handle heavy computing workloads, immensely important as more and more workloads are deployed into the cloud for big organizations. We're seeing the likes of ERP solutions being deployed into the cloud. On the mining side, we're seeing massive solutions coming it's starting to find their way into the cloud because of the ability to be able to handle these workloads. And then finally, the horizontal scaling is critically important to get additional processing power. But as many of us have obviously experienced, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and this has affected us across the world. This particular research report from Ericsson took into account how application usage has actually changed. And the key observation for us was that companies that embraced cloud computing tools and were able to empower their employees, their customers, their partners to continue working because solutions were sitting in the cloud, continue to operate. They weren't as affected as other companies that were lagging behind. And as we can see from the chart that's provided, remote working apps have become the popular apps in the world now. We see it every single day with the work that we're doing on Teams and Office 365. We can be anywhere in the world and be as productive as if we were back in the traditional office. But now we can do it remotely. This is the power that the cloud is providing us. So guys, just to start wrapping up, I think, and we've accentuated this again, our partners and customers are really in a strong position across the continent because of the investment that mobile operators have made in the infrastructure, both mobile and fixed and fiber. We are seeing, and obviously the internet connectivity with the cables, last mile connectivity, and the hyperscale data centers. Our customers and partners are experiencing improved speed, improved connectivity, and the hyperscale data centers are there and available for customers and partners to take advantage of the flexibility that it does provide. So with that, Nick, I'm gonna jump into the survey results.
John, let's get to it.
So it was a very, very interesting spread of participating countries. We were very fortunate that we've got 23 countries participating from partners from those companies, but we had a good spread across the continent, starting with North Africa into West Africa, East Africa, with a good concentration from the SADC region down in Southern Africa. Now, let's get into the actual results. So when we looked at the survey results based on the Ookla tests, download speeds, the average download speeds of our partners were just under 42 megabits per second. So let's compare that to what the global averages say. And Ookla obviously provide this information in the public domain. We can see that the global mobile average is also just under 40, with fixed broadband just under 88 megabits per second. Our download speeds of our partners that participated in the survey are on par with what the rest of the world is doing.
Yeah, John, apologies, John, if I can chip in here. And partners on the call, we're acutely aware that when we go to an IT related audience and we say, please participate in a survey for us, the results might yield something that's traditionally better than average. So we are completely aware of that notion, but I think the results clearly does show, and John's going to get to the per country results, we're on a good path for cloud growth in Africa.
Absolutely, Nick, thank you. Absolutely. So download is one component of the test, upload is as well. And we saw that from our survey results, our partners on average experienced a 33.5 megabits upload speed. Compare that globally, well above the mobile average and well within the fixed broadband average. Latencies are also within range in terms of basic ping results. The blob storage with the Azure speed test 2 ping results also produced interesting results. If we look at the average of 153, very much in line with the round trip results that you would see from data centers around the world. And in our report, we actually provide a matrix that allows you to be able to see what the different round trip latency speeds are from across the different data center regions. This number is definitely in line with what others are experiencing around the world. Within our results, we obviously had a concentration of certain countries. And what we did was we looked at 7 countries that actually had 3 or more survey participants that gave us results, approximately 39 partners. And we wanted to see how they were performing. So when we looked at those specific countries, we looked at Botswana, South Africa, Morocco, Nigeria, Namibia, Kenya, and Uganda. We saw that that partners in those particular countries had a download speed of 52.5 megabits per second. But I think this is the critical thing, guys. Microsoft, and we've provided this in our report, give recommendations of bandwidth needed to be able to run certain workloads in terms of power to heavy and so on. As we can see, in terms of the recommendations, many of our countries are in line, or if not higher, than what Microsoft recommend in terms of bandwidth requirements. This information is provided in our full report. Upload speeds also very, very good, upwards of just under 49 megabits per second. Ping rates also just under 26 milliseconds. And our latencies were pretty good. Like I have pointed out, in terms of round trips, it is in par with what other countries in developing markets are experiencing when it comes to latency on Azure 2.0 speed tests. Of the countries that we looked at, we identified those 7 countries, and for us there were some very interesting observations that came out. For example, of the 7 countries, a lot of the latency tests with Azure 2.0 speed test went down to South Africa North in terms of their tests. Botswana performed particularly well in terms of upload and download speeds from that particular market.
Some serious juice coming out of Botswana there.
Yeah, absolutely. Kenya was particularly interesting for me because it actually it was the country that had the most amounts of participants. And we believe there is the massive opportunity, as we very well know, of Kenya and a data center region in that particular part of the world. West Africa was also particularly interesting with Microsoft, with Nigeria and Morocco. West Africa and North Africa was toggling between the data regions in Africa and in Europe, but also experienced pretty good speeds as well.
Yeah, if I can jump in here, John, I think this results is obviously not as a surprise. As we are aware, we have the hyperscale data regions in South Africa with South Africa North and South Africa West. And it would be expected that the results such as this, especially obviously the blob storage check that we've done, that the South African data region would be the most prominently featured one. And why this is important, and this is the urge for partners, that when you do tests in regards to workloads for customers, do these tests in order to ensure that depending on where you find yourself on this geography of the African continent, that you select the correct data regions for the particular workloads. And that's really, I think, the important thing that we see from this specific slide.
Absolutely, Nick. And that very nicely dovetails into this. We had a look at the different data regions and which countries were gravitating towards those different data regions. There were a lot of our tests, the vast majority of the tests did come down to South Africa North, with the best ping rate being 16 milliseconds and the worst being 987, but a good average of 163. France Central was particularly interesting. It was the best performing of the countries. So Benin, Gambia, Morocco, Sierra Leone, and Tunisia. France Central seems to be a very good one when you are planning your workload implementations for your particular customers. We also saw results from Switzerland West and North as well that also yielded very good results for countries in North Africa. So just to wrap up the results, the four really key takeaways for us are very, very simple. Download speeds, we're ticking that box. We are well within a comfortable download speed for our partners who conducted the surveys. Upload speeds, very, very good as well at 33.5 megabits per second. Of the 23 countries that were represented in the survey, 14 of those countries had average download speeds that exceeded Microsoft's maximum requirements for power workloads. Guys, that's the opportunity there. We can do this. We can work in the cloud. And then lastly, we had 39 tests down to South Africa North, which yielded a good return ping rate of 163 milliseconds on its test. Now, with that, I would like to hand over to Nick, who's going to take us quickly through some of the quick win solutions that the cloud does offer. Nick, over to you.
And John, indeed, quick win solutions. We have very little time left. We should have scheduled perhaps a little bit more time, but we know everybody's time is valuable. So let's look at quick wins. Now, I'm by no means saying that the 3 or the 4 environments that we have on screen are the only opportunities for partners. I'll immediately have the Office 365 or the modern workload or M365 partners put up their hands and saying, are we saying that Exchange Online by means of Office 365 or M365 is not a quick win? Absolutely not. We are pointing out or trying to point out perhaps some of the non so obvious solutions. So and I'm quickly going to run through each of the bullets on the screen. ERP on Azure, and I believe, and it's difficult to say if there's an industry that's built for cloud computing, it's ERP, because we can say that of many workload areas. But ERP really is built for cloud. And typical ERP partner would tell you that a sales cycle for ERP can be 1 year, 2 years. Maybe there's engagement cycle with bigger corporate customers where you have to push that customer constantly to get that ERP project going, maybe for 3 years on end. What's the reason for that? Traditionally, we had big investments into software, which has now been taken away by the software options by means of subscription. So if software as a service ERP is not available in your region, you should really look at the market opportunity of ERP in the cloud. No more the need for an IT manager to go and budget for a new server for the application to run on, or a server farm for those applications to run on, another server farm for the database environment. It can be instant the moment you as the partner is ready for installation or user acceptance testing. And then very importantly, being able to beef up the computing power when needed. So Many times I hear partners, I'm sorry I'm focusing so much on ERP on Azure, but I believe there's a massive opportunity here. Many times I hear partners say, yeah, but when we look at Azure for an ERP deployment, it's expensive. I want to encourage those partners, have calls with us and let's go through the different scenarios. Have you considered reserved instances? Have you considered auto scheduling of those servers in order to ensure that the server only runs at the peak times when needed? I can talk about ERP on Azure for another half hour. Let's look at backup quickly. Backup really should be an add-on sell for every single time one of you partners going to a customer. Number one, blob storage really is inexpensive. I've heard partners say, oh, but the customer says to me, they've got a backup scenario. There's the server room and there's the backup server. And then we've got the backup server physically standing next to the application server. Guess what? If there's a flood or a fire, the backup strategy has just gone backwards. Blob storage in Azure allows you to have geo redundancy in regards to your storage capacity. That is true security, and that's the mature thing for organizations on the African continent to focus on. Digital selling in the cloud is the concept of CRM. We're not calling it CRM anymore. It's application specific, thus in the form of Salesforce automation or customer care. And I'm sure the partners on the call would be aware, you can no longer buy CRM 2016 from Microsoft. It's only available as a cloud-based solution, and we are way past the tipping point where there should be a conversation. If a customer is considering another vendor's application which runs CRM on-premise, I believe the customer should refocus their attention into what's happening in the real world. And then last but not least, and John touched on this quickly, communication in the cloud. We have seen with COVID an absolute explosion of people moving towards remote work applications. And with communications on the cloud, and we're very excited, we've got some incredible applications coming to market in the form of an application we call ForTalk, which uses Microsoft Teams and phone system to do breakout calls directly from your Teams application. Sorry I had to rush through this, but we believe these 4 areas are true opportunities for quick wins where you as the partner community can really enable your customers. John, if we can look at some of the questions, let's have a look at what's coming. I've addressed the questions from Martin and Rita previously. Thanks so much for that. There was a question in regards to different browsers and the result on latency test. So guys, I hope, and I see it's from an anonymous, I'm not going to be sucked in to a conversation on which browser is better. I want to acknowledge that certain browsers will result in different latency. And why is that? Different browsers have different security features. Different browsers have different detailed or different plugins that come by default with the browser. The more security layer, the more plugins that's natively part of the browser will obviously render a latency result perhaps a little bit worse than a less secure browser. So I hope I've addressed the question. Any more questions that have come in, John? John, if you can take that one. There's a question in regards to the weighted average, and can we share highest and lowest internet speeds? Yeah, sure, we can certainly touch that.
No, absolutely. The 2 speeds that the 2 countries that got the highest, if you absolutely look at the absolute speeds, there was a great speed from Kenya and massive speed and consistent speed coming out of Botswana. Botswana overall was really the top performing country when it came to internet speeds. And absolutely, we can share that information after the session.
There is a question on the topic of ERP on Azure. In our experience, the cost of VM is high. Yeah, so I believe I touched on that specific question there. So it's something I think that we should take offline. So the partner that asked if you can please reach out. So we've seen, and let's take a practical example. If you run a business-to-business customer, which means they do not have ERP touch points over the weekend or in the evenings, you can use a platform such as Microsoft Azure to scale your compute component to actually have the server environment switch off during those non-peak times. The moment you can do that, the amount that you save on the compute power and on the SQL database component is really a massive saving, and thus the cost component that the customer is seeing really goes down. And my second recommendation, really look at the concept of reserved instances. The moment you reserve that virtual environment for 1 year or 3 years or longer periods, the costs go incrementally down. I hope I've addressed that specific question.
Absolutely.
And there's a question from Buck Rogers, interesting name there. How can we move to Botswana? I agree. Phenomenal internet speeds coming there from Botswana. And I think the interesting one, and that's why we use the weighted average. If we see a massive result in a particular country and we only have 1 or 2, obviously that would skew, and that's why we went on the weighted average result. But yes, we had numerous results from Botswana. So whomever is the local providers in Botswana, I believe, are really doing a very good job there. Any further questions? I'm not seeing anything in my window pane here.
No, I don't see any more, Nick. I think we can wrap up.
There's one from David. Thank you, David, from Uganda. David, yeah. So funny enough, obviously Uganda is the country where on average we had the weakest results in regards to internet speed. Again, we are not thus saying Uganda is terrible at internet. We're merely saying that the participating partners with the browsers at which they accessed leverage results that were a little bit poorer than some of the other regions that are joining. And he said, I'm attending from Uganda via my Windows VM in South Africa North. Smiley face. Absolutely. Guys, the fact that we are having this conversation, you are seeing my face, you are hearing my voice. This is the power of cloud computing. We're all based on the same continent. Cloud computing is real and we should grasp the opportunity. John, I think let's close off. I just want to see the window. Is there any further questions? No, I think that's it. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining. On screen is the link. If I can please ask our coordinators to also publish the link into the chat so you can download those the full result. And please feel free to share this. I believe it's a good news story. And those are the hashtags that we'll certainly be using: Africa Speed, Africa Cloud, Azure, and Microsoft Advocate. And with that, I believe we are over time already. Thank you for joining, and we'll stay on if there's more questions, maybe another 5 minutes, but that concludes the formal portion of our presentation. Thank you again, everybody. And John, thank you to you, my co-presenter and author. Thank you for the effort.
Thank you very much, Nick, and goodbye, everyone.
As mentioned, guys, we'll stay on another few minutes. If there are questions in the Q&A, please pop them. Alternatively, I want to say you know where to reach us, so please reach out to myself or John. Happy to set up follow-up conversations to see how you can take this opportunity into the cloud. Thank you for joining. Again, there was a question in regards to the link of the report. The moderators have just shared that, so there's the link on screen as well. Please feel free to download the report, study the report, and if you feel it's interesting reading, we believe it certainly is, please share on social media. No more questions coming in. We are ending the broadcast. Thank you for joining, everybody. Keep well, stay safe. Bye-bye.